Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Thread.
Welcome back. It's good to be back.
Another day, another thread. We got a lot to talk about. First, want to go ahead and delve into the mailbox from yesterday's episode.
Oh yeah. We are evoking a lot of responses from people, and you know what? We're just talking about everyday things that people talk about.
So we got an email, and we'll respond to this. I'm not going to say his name because I think he wants to be anonymous. It's a long email, so bear with me. Thank you very much for this amazing podcast. A day has not gone by that I don't listen to it. I have an issue with the approach posed with regard to anti-Semitism by both Gordons. Mm-hmm. The Meshech Chochmah in Parshas Behalaischa discusses the way a Jew should act in Gullus, and he explains that we should not be the center of attention and rather should stick to ourselves and our community. He warned that if we do not, then we will face harsh anti-Semitism. Don't you think boycotting the Nets is overstepping our boundaries and putting us in the limelight? Aren't we in Gullus? I'm not saying that we should let all anti-Semitism fly. Rather, I think that it's important that we use these reminders that we are in Gullus and how much we wish to return to Hashem. In my opinion, the whole approach to Kanye West was also wrong. Let's face it, Kanye really doesn't care about what we think, and by protesting, we just open the door for more anti-Semitism, as now exhibited by Kyrie Irving. This is exactly what the Meshech Chochmah warned about. Parentheses, this is the famous piece which many Gedolim say warned about the impending Holocaust, end of parentheses. Mm-hmm. Once again, thank you for the amazing podcast. If this email is shared, please do not use my name, and I won't. Okay. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I think we have to put everything in proper context. Number one, it doesn't make sense that there's 7 billion people in the world and 13 million Jews. You know, the number of Jews in the world is less than the margin of error in the Chinese census.
Okay.
You know, when they're counting the number of people in China, which is today 1.4 billion people, when they're off by 100 million, it's statistical anomaly. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
And we're just what did I say? 13 million people? Maybe it's up to 14 million people in the world.
Curious where you're going with this.
6 million people. I'm talking about the fact that we're a tiny fraction of the population of the world, and how we feel and how we react to things shouldn't even be a blip on the screen. But we're living in the head of the world.
So how is that a response to what he was saying?
Well, he was saying that he thinks we shouldn't be drawing attention to ourselves.
Yeah, we shouldn't be reacting.
No, you can't just. First of all, you live in the modern world. Number one, number two, and we just can't make believe that we're in the shtetl and not react to things and just be the world's and history's victim. There's no need for that anymore. There are very sound and good sources for standing up for yourself. And speaking out, and not just being history's victim, which is how the Jewish people have been looked at and perceived for, I don't know, I was going to say hundreds of years, but come to think of it, it's a couple of thousand years that's the case.
Do you think that we're overreacting when it comes to stories like this, specifically Kyrie Irving? Do you think it's a non-story, let it be, move on, it'll pass over? Do you think we're overreacting?
No. Well, first of all, we're doing a daily podcast, so we have to talk about something. So
okay, but
that's good for us. You know, it's good for the news. You know, whoever wins the election next week in the United States, Senate, the House. You know, CNN has this perspective and Fox has the other perspective, but to them, the main focus is that this is news, man. This is keeping us in business and keeping people glued to their radios and TVs.
That aside,
everybody has their order of priority, and so again, I mean, I don't mean to be facetious, but in terms of us, this is good subject matter.
I get
in terms
that.
of I said from the very beginning,
as a person,
I don't attribute a great deal of power to Kanye West. I told you that last week or 2 weeks ago. Or even to Kyrie Irving, maybe they're fine people. You know, Kyrie Irving went to Duke, like that guy Rich Eisen said. So he's a college graduate, and
I don't know if he graduated. He left after like 1 or 2 years.
One season. So
yeah.
So he didn't graduate. Listen, what's her name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went to Boston University. I don't know what she took. Before she became a congresswoman, she was a bartender. So I'm just saying that everything has to be viewed in context, and Jews should be speaking out and not cowering and not acting fearful. And if there's something that troubles us, it behooves us to speak up, to stand up and speak out. So, with all due respect to the Meshach Chachma, I understand that when it's viewed in its proper context.
Okay, we have a couple more things I want to bring
emails?
up. Yeah, this is, I guess, the flip side. I'm sure there will be a Jewish night during Hanukkah, like every year in the Barclays Center, and we are all going to be there like losers.
That's the whole.
That's the whole feedback.
That's the whole thing.
And another piece of feedback we got was, it's more than that. Where's the rest of the NBA players? When they care about a cause, they never shy away from the microphone. How about Marcus Stroman, who plays in another massive Jewish market in Chicago, throwing support behind Kyrie and Kanye West? Unfortunately, the problem was a lot deeper than just Kyrie Irving.
Oh, I don't think the NBA.
Where's Adam Silver, who's a Jewish commissioner?
The NBA is there to entertain sports fans, not to make social commentary. And
but what happened? Come on, discussion. What happened with during the George Floyd riots? What happened with BLM?
Yeah,
that was
when we talked about what Madonna thinks about Donald Trump, or what Bella, what's her name, Hadid. What they think about Donald Trump, who cares? They're over their heads. Whatever they say about it, yes, they're going to say about it. They have 100 million followers, but whatever they say doesn't matter. It's not there. It's not. You're not going to call your dentist and ask him to fix your sink.
What do you define as it doesn't matter? Because to me, when something influences millions of people, it matters.
Well, it doesn't.
What to you? What is considered? It matters.
It doesn't matter when something doesn't matter. You let it flow through you. You read it, you hear it, you think about it for 2 minutes, you let it go, and it dissolves into the unisphere or the blogosphere, or whatever sphere you call it, what you want to refer to it as. These guys don't matter. Why are you stopping and giving them so much power? The flip side of the first letter that you read, by the way, I don't want to get off on a tangent, although you say that this entire podcast is
it's one big tangent.
A tangent, which is probably what makes it so popular anyway, but that's a side observation.
Tangent on a tangent. Yeah, go on.
That I'm making. Tangentially, let me just say...
Is that a word?
Yes.
Tangentially?
Yes, trust me. You can look it up, trust me. I was pretty close with Rabbi Meir Kahana. Okay, in the 1970s. I interviewed him a lot. I went to Washington with him once. I hosted a radio program with him once, right after the Israeli elections, by the way, on WMCA with Barry Farber. I wrote about him a lot. I interviewed him on the radio quite a few times, and I admired him. And he was a guy, there was no social media. I heard him speak in Brooklyn College. He couldn't speak today in Brooklyn College. He'd be canceled, canceled. They wouldn't let him in the same zip code as Brooklyn College or any other college today. But he was famous for saying a few things, and one of his things was he started an organization called the Jewish Idea. And I hope I'm getting it right, but he said that what we need, the Jewish Idea was a Jewish head with a Jewish fist. That was his thing.
What does that mean?
You have to your head has to be in Limud HaTorah, in davening, in kavanah. In being a Shomer Torah mitzvahs, but you also have a Jewish fist. And you don't back up. When you need your fist, you daven. It's time to daven, you daven. When it's time to use your fist, you have to use your fist. That was what he was known for. That's why people condemned him. But Hashem said the same thing to Moshe Rabbeinu when before they crossed the Yam. Before they crossed the Yam, and it was a division amongst Klal Yisrael what to do. And one faction wanted to daven to Hashem, and Hashem said, "Enough davening already. Now it's time to move. Now it's time to get going. There's a time for everything."
Okay. On to the next topic. We could discuss, the upcoming election. Obviously, Lee Zeldin, Kathy Hochul, and everyone's taking their sides now, like color war. Lee Zeldin, by and large, has been getting a ton of support from the frum communities.
Right, it's increasing.
Or should we call him Moshe Zeldin? We played that song yesterday. That is number one on the Apple charts, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And
vote for Zeldin.
Yeah, you got that. Should I give you some harmony?
What's the rest of the?
I don't know. I don't speak Yiddish.
Zeldin. Hotaplan, something like that.
I don't know.
A little bit of English, a little bit of Yiddish.
Anyways, a headline that did come out yesterday was that the Satmar Rebbe,
The Ahron in Monroe.
he came out in support of Kathy Hochul.
You need a scorecard. You have to understand that Ahron Teitelbaum runs Monroe. Zalman Leib runs Williamsburg.
Rabbi Zalman Leib came out in support of Zeldin.
Zalman Leib came out along with, I think, with Bubba and Bells for Zeldin. And the news broke last night that Hochul promised the Monroe community something between $55 and $94 million.
One second. When you say the news broke,
Well, it became known.
to the public or to you?
It became known to the public, I believe, because
Where'd you see that?
I got an email last night. I'm not allowed to look at my phone. You don't like that when I look at my phone. You look at your phone, but I can't look at my phone. But I can look it up now. But I got it from one of the Jewish websites, from a reliable source.
It's reliable?
Yes.
So
They're not giving them money to bribe them for their vote. They're giving them money because they need some kind of
Funding.
water system. For $94 million water system, which you could probably buy in Home Depot for $199.99.
Okay.
If it's not on sale. Probably for less when it's on sale. But they're giving them $94 million.
So it's like a pay-to-play sitch.
Yeah, so that's one aspect of that. But I also heard last night.
Is this also on the record?
Everything's on the record here.
Okay.
I also heard last night that it's true that the Satmar Rebbe and I'm sure a lot of Satmar Hasidim in Monroe are listening to this.
Oh, I'm sure a ton.
And we don't need a ton. You need a few influential people. In Jewish life, you don't need a ton. You don't need a ton. You need a couple of people that have influence to listen and
tangentially.
And it's like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay.
That's how Jewish life works.
That's why you're leaving everyone on a cliffhanger. What's the other piece of news that you heard?
The other piece of news is that even though the Rebbe in Monroe is endorsing officially Hochul, the word on the street is vote for Zeldin. So what you go, that's why that's the magic of a secret ballot. You know what? I was thinking this morning that this is in Israel, the election yesterday, and the election coming up here in the U.S. next week. This is the magic of America. You know that there's 7 billion people in the world, and 5 billion people live in countries where there's never an election.
Really?
China is never an election. North Korea is never an election. Sometimes they have a make-believe election. Iran, there's never an election. There's so many countries where there's never elections. The Palestinian Authority, which is only, 2-3 million people, maybe. They have Mohammed Abbas was elected to a 4-year term 14 years ago. And there hasn't been another election since then. We are amongst 2 billion people in the world. Here and in India, where there is 1.3 or 1.4 billion people, and the United States and England and a few other countries that have legitimate democratic elections. That's very unique. And you have to take a step back and appreciate the beauty of. Now, of course, some people have tried to corrupt that process because it's so good and so pure that it almost begs for being corrupted. And we've seen that happen here.
I think something that we saw that happened yesterday, and the news right now is that Benjamin Netanyahu is victorious in the Israeli elections to become the next prime minister, which is his 6th term.
Well, I don't know what term it is. He was prime minister for 10 years in a row until he got bopped out. But you see, also there's interesting parallel always between whatever's going on in Israel and whatever's going on in the United States for some reason. For example, after Trump lost to Biden, we've had 2 years of a Biden administration, which has been an absolute disaster on every level for the country. And in Israel, they had, I guess, a little bit more than a year. They had, what's his name? Naftali Bennett. He wanted to break new ground. He meant well. He wanted to create a Jewish government that was dependent on an Arab party for their majority. His intentions were good. I'm not coming out against him. He meant well, but it was a disaster. You can't have. We're not ready yet.
I think it was really inspiring to see the amount of Haredim that went out yesterday and voted in Eretz Yisrael, and I think that a lot of that had to do with the leadership, with the Rabbanim, with Rav Gershon Edelstein and others going to vote, and it made a big impression that voting is a holy thing to do because this is our bechira right now.
Well, you have between Shas and United Torah Judaism, which are the Shas Party and the Haredi Party, UTJ. You have about 15 seats between the two of them. And then you have Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich with the National Religious Party. Also, I think they're going to end up with 14 seats. So you have amongst, I'm not even talking about the religious members in the Likud. I'm talking about you have a 120-person parliament and you have 30 people from parties. That's a
Makes
power.
a difference. It really does.
That means Israel is finally, they tried another way. It didn't work. They're going on the right track.
I think we're really moving towards Mashiach vibes. We have El Al, which is now owned by Ephraim Yid and Kenny Rosenberg and his family. There was a time, people forget it, that El Al flew on Shabbos. Remember? There was a time where they had that issue where they were flying on Shabbos.
Yeah.
And now we're owned by a From Jew. And now the government in Israel also is hopefully heading into the religious area, which the yeshivas will be taken care of and the Haredim will be taken care of, and they'll be machshav of the right things.
Well, there's different types. We mentioned this once in the last few weeks about how do you run a country today without there being technical Chilul Shabbos on some level. There's different types of Chilul Shabbos. You have in an emergency around here and in other parts of the United States, where let's say, for example, there's Hatzalah or other organizations that in an emergency you have to not being Machal Shabbos, the Hilchos Shabbos gets suspended halachically. But you have what they call Chilul Shabbos b'Hesia, and this was the philosophy of the non-religious parties, that Israel is a state like every other state, and the buses should run on Shabbos, and the trains should run on Shabbos.
But here's the thing:
the planes should fly on Shabbos.
It's not a state like every other state. It's the only Jewish state in the world.
Okay, but the people need to express that. Now, I saw that Israel has like 9 million people. I think 9 million total. I think 20% is Arab. And just over 4 million people voted yesterday, just like 62%.
Is that low or is that high?
Listen, there's a great deal at stake. 62% of the eligible voters voted. What did everybody else do? What were they doing? They weren't at work.
Falafel, shawarma, I don't know.
They weren't at work. What were they doing?
And on the topic of voting and politics, I think it's interesting to bring up. It's funny. I'll show a picture here if I can find it. I'm going to try to find it. There's a picture yesterday of Bill de Blasio riding on the subway with a mask.
Oh, yeah?
Dressed in, it looks like he's homeless, honestly. Yeah. But dressed in, you'll see, hopefully, if I find that picture. But it's crazy. It's very interesting to see who the from Jews, and when I say from Jews, I'm talking about local elections. Let's say governor, Senate. The Aguda has a voice when it comes to who to vote for and who we align ourselves with, and it's so difficult because we always want to hedge. Like, for example, it seems like a lot are going all in when it comes to Lee Zeldin, but what happens if Kathy Hochul wins and we're on the outs with her because we really got behind Lee Zeldin? I think that's why maybe the Aguda really tries to stay sort of neutral or play both hands, or other organizations as well. They don't go all in because you never know what's going to happen. You need to have good relationships with whoever is going to be in power. But at the same time, when in the past, some of our organizations and people who represent a lot of Jews have gotten behind people like Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams, who's now the mayor.
There's no difference between, as far as I can see, Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams, and there's no difference between Kathy Hochul and
Andrew Cuomo.
I don't think anybody would have had a chance against Andrew Cuomo because he would have been going for his fourth term as governor. He has name recognition. People most of the time vote and do a lot of things in their life without any thought process whatsoever. Without, like I said yesterday, they don't need any information to make a decision. And they just go ahead with the popular.
Something that we're seeing is that the Jewish vote is an extremely powerful asset. Lee Zeldin and Kathy Hochul have both, although Lee Zeldin a lot more, has been campaigning in the From communities. They're trying to win that From vote. I don't know what percentage of the vote that accounts for, but I do feel like that whatever percentage it is, it does tip the scale one way or another, especially in such a close race.
Absolutely, but the thing, if Zeldin wins, and of course I hope he does. We've endorsed him in the paper. We've spoken to him about him a lot here. I think that what we're dealing with is having to make a decision based on something that's greater than just the money that they can dole out for you. I mean, there's
although there's no reason not to believe that if Lee Zeldin does win, that he will take care of our needs and our infrastructures financially.
Yeah, well, there's
You're saying there's more than that.
The New York State Board of Regents has declared war on the yeshiva system in New York. They want to get into the classrooms of all the yeshivas. Okay, they say it's only yeshivas that have a little bit of deficiency in secular subjects, like not teaching enough math, not science. And and the problem is more pronounced by the fact that these educational institutions are taking government funding, which maybe they should have not have done. But there's something you said about letting the status quo be. Just let it be. They're functioning. They're producing good people. Their kids don't graduate.
So they waged war out of the blue.
Yeah, and they want to get their foot in the door to encourage them allegedly to teach more science and more English and more math. But they really want to get in there to teach about revisionism. They want to introduce the whole idea of critical race theory that America was really founded way before 1776. That was really founded by other groups, and they were hijacked by someone else with a political agenda. And of course, they wanted to teach about lifestyles that are anathema and repugnant should be to all young people, in terms of this whole transgender concept, which has gained momentum nationally. And not because it's important, it only gained momentum because, once again, back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, it gets people to watch the news. And the people that are delivering the news and doing the podcasts are the people that are in the business of getting people to watch.
The thing is, the thing that you just said, like, that can get you in a lot of trouble.
With?
Calling the transgender movement repugnant. I
didn't say that. I didn't say that. You misunderstood me. I said things that doesn't belong in the classroom. With
are you saying there's no place for it in the classroom?
Not with second and third and fourth graders. Not with fourth, fifth, and sixth.
I agree.
4, 5, and 6-year-old kids. You don't have to be. You don't have to say that the Frum community or the Orthodox community is different than everybody else. This is something that parents around the country are objecting to and protesting to school boards about. And this is the fight, and it's nothing to do with whether we're Jewish or Shomer Shabbos or it has nothing to do with it. They want to get their foot in the door on math and science and English, but the agenda I'm saying is much broader, and much greater, and that's what we have to protect against.
Yeah, let's be real. Go to every single major accounting firm in the city and tell me what percentage of the accountants there are Jewish. Go to Price Waterhouse. Go. Go tell me how many from Jews are sitting there, and don't tell our math is fine and our science is fine. But I do agree with you that it is to get in and teach critical race theory and the others.
I was looking up. I thought we were going to talk about some more election stuff. I was always curious about Herschel Walker. How do you get the first name Herschel?
Herschel.
How do you get the first name Herschel?
Sweeties, right?
What?
His
name is Herschel Jr. Walker. I just looked it up this morning, but you know what his wife's name is?
What?
Her maiden name was Grossman.
Get out of here.
Cynthia Grossman.
Yeah, but what does his wife's name have to do with his name?
I don't know. If he had children with her, they could be Jewish kids if she's Jewish. I don't know if she's halakhically or technically Jewish.
Cynthia Grossman?
Cynthia Grossman is her name.
I don't think Herschel Walker was named Herschel before he got married to Cynthia Grossman. How did he get the name Herschel?
I don't know. I know he was born in Georgia, and he was a football star. I think he even played for the Giants for a short time. Do you remember that?
I wasn't born when he was playing.
Oh, okay. Were you born when Mickey Mantle was playing?
No.
But you know Mickey Mantle.
I know Herschel Walker, but I didn't know he played for the Giants.
Okay, now you know Herschel Walker. Herschel Jr. Walker is his full name. But he has a famous kid who has a big media presence, Christian Walker.
Okay.
Who's against his father's candidacy. Of
Okay.
course, his father's too conservative, but it's a whole shaklavatariya there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Were you talking about Bill de Blasio on the subway?
Good old Bill.
Just to come back to that. So people always wonder why people are driving their car alone with the mask on. I don't know if we covered that or not, did we?
No.
But I always have a theory about that. My theory is that that if you're in the car alone, you're within 6 feet of yourself, so you have to wear a mask. And for those that learned the Daf Yomi today, in Masechet Nedarim, it talks about how a person can excommunicate himself and then revoke that excommunication. So can you imagine he's excommunicating himself?
Interesting.
And just for the sake of discipline for some reason, then he can undo it. So I was looking at that this morning. I was learning that this morning before the sun came up. And
Now I know what you're doing at 5 a.m.
And 5:30. And but they reminded me, I pictured a guy driving his car with his mask on. He's within 6 weeks. He could spread the virus to himself.
Very interesting. Something worth noting. The Powerball is now over $1 billion. Let me ask you, Abba, what would you do?
What's the one lump sum payout? That's what I'd like to know.
Lump sum payout?
$700 million?
Let's say.
I don't know. That's $500 million you're throwing out.
Okay, you got it.
I have a jackpot. I forgot what it's called. I have the app on my phone where I could buy Powerballs. I could buy all lotto things here. I'm going to buy one right after we finish this thing. I'll let you know when it's drawing tonight.
I really don't know.
If it's tonight, I'll let you know tomorrow. If I'm not here tomorrow, you should know that.
Yeah. So how would your life change if you won $700 million?
Well, I'm gonna take 1 day off, probably.
1 day?
Yeah.
I don't think our listeners don't deserve that. I think you should be here.
I'll be
two a days.
I'll let you know. If I win, I will share it with a lot of people.
Would you?
Yes. Yeah, you're making funny faces.
I'm curious. Like, what does that mean?
Is that a very odd concept to you?
No,
You're not familiar with that idea?
I'm curious. Share it with a lot of people what that means. I mean, like, live it out. You just won $700 million. What's your first move?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about it. Ask me again tomorrow.
Okay, I don't know if I won $700 million. I think the first place I'm going is buying an apartment in Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, that's $1 million. That's $2 million. $3 million. Okay. You have $697 million left.
Wow.
What else are you doing?
I'm gonna set up a.
You get your own subscription to the New York Post.
No, actually,
that's $12 a month, right
actually,
there.
I don't know. I think that's a little too expensive. I'm not gonna do that.
You could buy Hamadiyah and Yated and Ami.
Yeah.
And what's the other one called? Mishpacha.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. I don't know, it's like $15 on the cover
A month.
So no, each issue is like $15.
Oh, seriously?
I don't know.
What would I do with $700 million? What would you do with $700 million? Let's hear it. Go ahead, send us an email. thedailythread@meaningfulknown.org.
Our people don't usually win those things. It's very, very rare.
I think it's very rare in general.
It's because we're such a minority amount in the number in the population. It's unlikely statistically that we're gonna win.
You know, they say statistically that the people who do win the lotteries don't end up too happy. You know, like I'm not going to go through each one now, but they say people go broke and they lose their family, and you know, because you end up having a lot of new friends when you win $700 million.
Right. I think the main thing is if you do win, keep it secret.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, show up tomorrow whether you win or not.
Okay, so if you see us tomorrow, you will never know.
Okay, what else is in the
news these days? Hurricane Sandy 10 years ago.
I almost forgot about that.
Hurricane Sandy's
10th anniversary.
10th anniversary is around now.
The 29th of October is when it hit.
That was crazy times.
That was crazy time. You know, there happens to be a Verizon outage here in Cedarhurst.
Maybe it's in honor of the 10th anniversary.
I don't know, but I see the Verizon trucks on Central Avenue. I don't know what they're doing. You know, in the olden days before there was cell phones, with your phones used to go down. You would call a telephone company. They'd go into your closet. They have a telephone closet on every floor. They even have it here in this building. And you go into the closet, and there's yellow wires, blue wires, green wires, red wires, and they're like jumbled together like a kid playing with a ball. And all of a sudden, the guy just moves a couple of wires around. All of a sudden, you can call Australia. You know, and it doesn't make any sense. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, shout out to Verizon for like not having Wi-Fi for almost 2 days here. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to receive my monthly bill and pay it with a smile on my face.
Those were difficult days.
They were.
I was talking to Shulam Klein from the Rockaway Nassau Security Patrol. That really came into existence about 2 years before Hurricane Sandy.
Achiezer also came into existence, right?
Yeah,
during Hurricane Sandy.
They were pressed into emergency service, and they maybe they would have evolved slower, but Hurricane Sandy forced them to hit their stride and to respond the way they did. I used to get before the storm hit. We got phone calls from Nassau County government saying everyone south of Sunrise Highway, which is where we are, should evacuate.
And we didn't.
We didn't evacuate.
We didn't evacuate. And if I remember correctly, the storm came. We were at home.
Right.
And we lost power at some point.
Right.
The next night, we went ahead and went to the hotel on Rockaway Turnpike, which is now a Holiday Inn that is for homeless people. But
that was the one we went to?
It wasn't a Holiday Inn. It was something else. We went to Rockaway Turnpike Hotel. It was the only hotel that had any rooms. Near the airport. We stayed there.
I got one night. I managed to book one night. I begged them for more nights, but they were booked. Because
who was coming in town? FEMA workers were coming in town, and they booked all the FEMA workers to sleep there. The FEMA workers were coming to help us and rescue us, and they're kicking us out of the hotel. And then it will give a shout out. I think you and Ema slept in the house a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? We had hot water.
That's all you had. And I remember there was candles and fires lit to just, we were, all in all, we were out of power for around 2 weeks. The power did come back on, and then there was a snowstorm, and then it went out again.
Here in Cedarhurst, where we're sitting now, there was power.
Yes, we slept in the office. We slept
one night. It was very, very uncomfortable.
I was fine.
It was very uncomfortable. The floors are very hard. The couches that I have.
It's crazy to think that, it's crazy to think about that happened.
But what I wanted to say is that when you came out onto the street in Cedarhurst, I used to look down with Lawrence, and all you saw was black.
Yeah.
All of Lawrence was dark, black.
It was scary.
And now a lot of people have generators, so we're not going to be left that vulnerable again.
But, a big shout out to Morty Solomon, the Solomon family from Lawrence, because
put you innocent up there.
Me and my brother, we slept there.
How many nights did you sleep there?
For many nights, and you also then came and slept there.
I was there at least 2 nights, I think, and he also served us breakfast.
So breakfast. We were there.
Morty and Melanie Solomon. You can't leave Melanie out of the.
Of course.
And they were very gracious hosts. And I remember the morning when we heard a rumor that power might be back up, and we kept calling the house phone
to see if it rang.
To see if it rang, to see if the voicemail answered.
Oh, right.
The voice, it would ring and ring and ring and ring. That man's power was still out. All of a sudden, boom, the voicemail came on. We knew we were on the way home.
I remember the moment that we went back home the first time, and everyone was by us because Malky and Woodmere still didn't have power, and I think maybe Cedarhurst didn't have power, parts of Cedarhurst, and then everyone was by us, and it was snowing, and we're like, oh my goodness, and then boom, power out, and then we had to scramble again. Some got hit worse than others. I know we spent the Shabbos in Crown Heights back then at Crane D and
we're by Levi at Brook. We slept in his house.
We slept in their house, but we ate by
Crane D and Moshe Klein.
By Moshe Klein in Crown Heights. It's funny because Brooklyn was like...
Yeah, it was a rainy day in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn wasn't touched because their wires are on the ground.
You don't know what's going on 15 miles from here. It's a disaster. What are you talking about?
We're living out of garbage bags, and in Brooklyn, they're just like still wearing their Ferragamo belts and everything. It's crazy. But a lot of people's lives were forever, altered by that. Their houses were ruined, and
I covered in a story in the Five Towns Jewish Times. It comes out tomorrow. It's called Sandy, 10 years later. I remember meeting with one woman whose house was completely ruined, and she had flood insurance and homeowners insurance, and the insurance company went ahead, took the money, and paid the rest of her mortgage. Because the banks were working with the insurance company. The banks were afraid they were going to get stuck with people that were unable to pay. So the insurance company paid the bank. She had no money to fix her house.
That's unfortunate. That's crazy. You know what? I think Sandy is one of those things that you look back and you're like, whew, that was it was like a rough time. But recently I've been doing this a little bit, but even in 10 years from now, it'll be even more. We're going to think back and look at times of COVID. And you're gonna like, I was just reminiscing the other day about it with somebody, and it's just like
about COVID.
Yeah, but like we're not walking outside, gloves, masks, not contact with nobody. We're talking like, I don't know if I left, because I had a baby during COVID. I don't think I left for like 8 weeks from indoors. Like, it was a crazy, crazy time. And you lived down the block from me, and Nissan lived across the street from me, and we didn't see each other. Like Pesach, I was home, you were in your house, and we all just, it's just a crazy time.
I remember when we finally went back to shul, there was a Lucite petition between the Balkora and the person getting the Aliyah. The guy laning was wearing a mask, and surgical gloves because they didn't want to touch the Sefer Torah where the other guy touched. And one of the biggest no-nos in a minyan is you don't give a father and a son Hagba and Galila.
But
during COVID, you only gave a father and son Hagba and Galila because they were both in the same bubble.
I remember being by KMH during COVID, and we were outside in a tent, and by laning, the Rav got all 7 aliyahs.
Really?
They gave the Rav all 7 aliyahs because they did not want to have anybody else coming up. That was probably early on when people just started getting to shul. And we're going to talk about this to our kids and to our great-grandkids and grandkids.
They're not going to believe it.
And they'll be like, what are you talking about? Can you imagine that there was no laning in shul for like 2 months, a month and a half? And then some shuls, when they went back, laned all the parshas?
I don't know about that, but I know that I spent some time in Woodmere by Malki and her family, and there was a minyan around the corner, outside minyan around the corner. And the first week I went there, they had no Sefer Torah, so it just didn't rain on Shabbos morning. Okay, The next week that I went there, they had a Sefer Torah but no Balkore, so they didn't rain again. So I mean that was we were feeling our way into a new reality that we had to adjust to.
And it's not that long ago, and maybe we'll spend an episode talking about soon, people going back to shuls or staying outside in their outdoor minyanim, because there are a lot of new minyanim that were propped up during that time that still are in existence.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's true. We should we have a lot of room here. We should get a guest
maybe
once a week, a guest for 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, there's not that much room between us.
It's busy on Central Avenue. We can grab one of these people and just bring them in here. I bet
you should hit the streets.
Interesting story to tell.
Okay,
it's a nice day. It's a warm day in New York. It's already in the 60s.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
Baruch Hashem, it's a nice time of year.
It's a nice time of year, and this is our daily thread for today, Wednesday, October. Scratch that. November 2nd.
November 2nd.
2022, coming at you from Cedarhurst, New York. Nachi Gordon here with my father,
Larry Gordon. Now people know who we are. People say, I saw you talking to that redheaded guy.
Yeah.
Now they know. I told you to put our names under the thing.
We'll try. I'll
try. Have a great day, everybody.
Try to work it out. Of course, you can go ahead and email us at thedailythread@meaningfulminute.org, and we will see you tomorrow.